Okay, so you ever just like stand in your living room and look around and it's like, bam, just completely defeated by the state of your house.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's it. I give up. I'll just live in this chaos forever. Anyone else? No, just me. Okay, well, what if instead of that inner critic lecture series we're all so fond of, you had a guidebook,
Yeah.
like for a kinder, gentler approach to chores?
Now, that I could get behind.
Right. And that's actually what we're diving into today with Casey Davis's book, How to Keep House While Drowning.
And it's not like magic, right? It's not going to make all the chores disappear.
Sadly, no.
But it is about changing the whole script, you know? The one we have playing in our heads about what those tasks actually mean about us as people.
Yes. 1,000 times yes. Davis's whole premise is that care tasks are, get this, morally neutral.
It's radical.
It really is. Meaning you are not a bad person because you struggle with laundry or, let the dishes pile up.
It's such a simple idea, but it's like, whoa, mind blown.
Right, because so much of what we hear about housework is all like good versus bad, worthy versus unworthy.
Oh, totally. Judgment City.
Exactly. And Davis is just like, nope. She challenges that head on.
Which is so necessary because otherwise we end up in this vicious cycle she talks about, right? The shame spiral.
Oh, tell me about it.
You feel ashamed because the house is a mess, so you avoid dealing with the mess because you feel so bad, which just leads to
more mess and more shame.
It's like this self-perpetuating monster under the sink.
Oh my gosh, yes. And that monster, it thrives in silence. Davis talks about that, right?
Totally.
Like, by not talking about these struggles, we're basically just handing them more power.
It's like she says, failing at chores doesn't make you a bad person, but shame might make you a quieter one.
Ooh, I like that. Write that down. And speaking of quieting that shame monster, one of the most helpful things I took from this book is the idea of the compassionate observer. Have you heard of this?
Oh, absolutely. It's like straight out of self-compassion research, Kristen Neff's work, you know?
Right. So how would you explain it?
Well, it's basically learning to view yourself like with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a close friend, you know, if they were struggling.
So instead of that inner voice screaming, oh, you're such a slob for letting those dishes pile up.
Right, right. It's more like
Give me the compassionate observer version.
the compassionate observer is like, hey, it sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed right now. It's okay if you need to ask for help or, even just take a break and come back to this later.
It's like giving yourself permission to be human with flaws
Yeah.
and dirty dishes.
Yes. It's amazing how revolutionary that can feel, right?
Totally. And you know what's cool? It's like by offering ourselves that compassion, it actually creates this space for real change. Like we can actually start building better habits from a place of self-acceptance, not shame.
Exactly. Because it's not about like guilt cleaning our way to a spotless house, right?
No more cleaning while crying. Sign me up.
Davis is very clear about this skill building. That comes after the mindset shift.
Okay, so no more trying to force ourselves to be perfect while simultaneously drowning in self-criticism.
You nailed it. It's like trying to bake a cake with nothing but a spatula and a prayer.
Okay, first of all, I feel that in my soul. Second of all, I'm hearing there are other tools besides spatulas and prayers. Tell me more.
You got it. Davis gives us tons of practical tips, like one technique that really clicked with me, and I know you love a good efficiency hack. It's called 5-category cleaning.
5-category cleaning. I am intrigued. Break it down for me.
Okay, so imagine this. You walk into a room and you're just like, ugh, where do I even start? It's overwhelming.
My entire life, basically.
But instead of freaking out about cleaning the whole room, you break it down into 5 manageable categories.
All right, hit me with these categories.
Okay, so super simple. Trash, dishes, laundry, things that have a place and things that need a place.
Oh, I like that. So simple, but it makes so much sense.
It's all about giving your brain a clear starting point.
Totally. Because that's the thing, right? Sometimes you just need to know where to start once you get going.
Momentum. Exactly.
Okay, so that's awesome for tackling, like, a big mess. But what about those everyday things that tend to trip us up?
I see you going there.
Laundry?
You know me too well. Mount Washmore is my Everest, my nemesis, my arch nemesis.
Oh, believe me, I used to be right there with you. Until I discovered this amazing thing Davis talks about called the permission to start approach.
Permission to start. Say more.
It's basically giving yourself permission to do something instead of nothing, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Okay, so instead of waiting for like some magical free afternoon to do laundry, which, let's be honest, never actually happens.
Right. You set a timer, say, for 10 minutes. You fold clothes until it goes off. And then what? The magic happens.
Well, the magic is that you give yourself full permission to stop when the timer goes off, even if you've only folded, like, 2 socks.
2 socks. Are you serious? What if there's still clothes, like, exploding out of the dryer?
Stop.
But
The laundry.
it's okay, because here's the thing. Folding 2 socks is still better than doing nothing, right?
Okay, that's fair.
And often you'll find that once you get started, you actually want to keep going.
That is so true. Why am I wired to be all or nothing? Like, if I can't do a full KonMari overhaul of my closet, then what's the point?
I've been there. But Davis's approach is all about celebrating those small wins.
Which, let's be honest, are sometimes the biggest wins.
Exactly. Because they get us moving in the right direction. It's like reframing the whole game.
Yeah.
Instead of, am I winning or losing at chores today? It's like,
Am I moving in a direction that feels good?
yes, exactly. Okay, so we've talked about ditching the shame, embracing good enough. But what about those times when it's like, even starting feels impossible, like you're drowning in to-dos and ignoring the chores just isn't an option?
Right, those days happen. I think that's where Davis's idea of dropping the plastic balls comes in. It's so helpful for those moments.
Dropping the plastic balls, I like the sound of that already. Tell me more.
Okay, so picture this. You're juggling, right? Some of the balls are glassware. Those represent the truly essential things in your life. Your health, your relationships, your well-being.
Yeah, those are definitely glass ball territory.
And if you drop one of those, it's going to shatter, right? But then you've got these other balls, the plastic ones. Those are important, sure, but they're not going to cause a 5-alarm fire if they slip up for a bit.
So like what? Give me some examples of plastic balls.
Oh, maybe it's having a perfectly organized junk drawer. Or keeping up with, like, the absolute latest fashion trends.
Oh, that's a good one. I can definitely let go of a few fashion balls. So what's the takeaway? When things get crazy, ditch the plastic.
Exactly. Davis is all about getting real with our priorities, especially when we're feeling stretched thin.
Which, let's be real, is a lot of the time for most of us.
Truth. And even within those glass ball priorities, like the truly essential stuff, Davis encourages us to embrace the idea that good enough is perfect.
Okay, tell me everything about that.
Yeah.
Because perfectionism is my middle name. No, it's actually my first name.
I feel you. It's like her whole approach is all about finding these little hacks that make life more manageable, and ditching that all or nothing mentality.
Which, speaking of, can we talk about rest is a right, not a reward?
Yeah.
Because that one just hit me right in the feels.
Yes, such a good one. It's like, what if we went through life knowing that rest isn't something we have to earn, but something we deserve simply by being human?
It's radical
Mhm.
and so necessary because so many of us are stuck in that cycle of, like, I'll rest when.
Right, when the house is clean or when my inbox is at 0.
Exactly. It's like no wonder we're all exhausted.
It's true. And when we can release that guilt around rest, we can actually bring more intentionality to our care tasks.
Okay, I'm listening.
Like, instead of approaching chores from this place of, ugh, I have to do this, it's more like, what would it look like to do this from a place of self-care?
Ooh, I like that. Self-care, not self-criticism.
Mm.
But I have to ask, we've talked about dishing the shame, embracing good enough, prioritizing rest. But what about those deeper messages? Like the ones that tell us we should be able to do it all perfectly and without breaking a sweat. How do we deal with those?
You're hitting on something really important, and Davis actually encourages us to, dig a little deeper there. She talks about this concept of cleaning and parental trauma, which is basically how our childhood experiences can shape our relationship with chores as adults.
Wow, I've never thought about it like that before.
It's fascinating stuff, and it can be really helpful in understanding some of those deeper patterns.
Totally. So for everyone listening, if you're feeling inspired to, like, actually give yourself a break and maybe even tackle a few chores from a place of self-compassion, where should they start?
Well, first of all, know that you are not alone in this. And if you're ready to dive deeper into all of this, I highly recommend checking out Casey Davis's book, How to Keep House While Drowning. It's full of practical tips and compassionate wisdom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And until next time, remember, you deserve kindness regardless of the state of your to-do list.